So kind of picking up from where we left off, during the time that Jesus was on earth, he spoke a lot about the idea of church as a family, and that idea was continued by Paul. And actually then as you start to look through the Bible and you start to prepare, you realise that actually there is threads of the idea of being a family running through the whole Bible in the way that people are encouraged to be. So I'm just picking out a few wee bits of this today, but there is an absolute wealth of things in the Bible about being a family. I also think it's quite important to point out that traditions at that time were maybe a little bit different to ours. Being a family meant being a family. You ate your meals together, you spent a lot of time together. I am not talking today about your great Auntie Frida who you see once a year and you give her a wave if you see it. I'm talking about the family that we have a relationship. Now, when Paul's talking about the church, he often uses the phrase brothers and sisters. Now, not all of us will have siblings, but most of us will have an idea of what it means to be a brother or a sister. So I am blessed to have a brother and a sister, and as in with the idea of family, it's not always easy. We don't always feel the same, and I'll come on to speak a little bit about that later. But what I do know 100% is that our parents see us all equally. They don't look and say, well, Chloe got the best mark in her degree, we love her a little bit more. Or Adam's sports abilities are incredible, we'll love him a little bit harder today. They love the three of us equally. They love us without reserve. They love us without hesitation. And that's the love that God has for us. He doesn't look and say, well, didn't do your best today, try again tomorrow. His love is there for us all. And I think the image of brothers and sisters is actually a really powerful one, because it's not just about our up and down relationship with God, but it's also about our relationship with others, with the church family, with brothers and sisters. I can't imagine a time where I wasn't close to my brother or sister, or that if they phoned me and said, I need you for this, that everything else drops for a minute to go to meet them. And that, so if we have a wee look in Ephesians, there is a verse here that just perfectly sets up this idea of family. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ. That blows my mind. He predestined us, he planned for us to be adopted to sonship. Every time we read that, you just feel that wee shiver, that was the plan. He adopted us. Now, when a young person or an adult or whoever in a situation becomes adopted, they become an equal member of that family. As soon as the adoptive parents sign that dotted line, that young person is theirs without reservation. They have a new life with that family, and that is their forever family. And that is how it is for us with God. We're adopted to sonship. There's no, you're adopted, but only if you're going to be good and you're going to keep your room tidy and you're going to listen to all the instructions. Those parents take that young person on exactly where they are. That's where God takes us on, meets us where we are. So this morning I had asked our power kids why we thought that God wanted us to be a family. And while they were very quiet this morning, when I'd spoken to them a few weeks ago, they said, one of the big things that they said that really struck me was, if you didn't have a family, you'd be lonely. And that really resonated with me, that they were thinking about, you would be lonely. And I thought, do you know what? They're right. And not everybody gets a good, strong blood family or lives near their blood family, but this family here can be just as strong as that. And, we do not need to be sitting here on a Sunday morning feeling lonely because we have our family on the left and the right of us. So when I was looking at why did God decide that we were going to be a family and not just a group of people, a wee community that comes together, I've picked out a few bits, although there will probably be other bits that you'll be thinking, why did you not say that? That's really important. But I've picked out a few bits. The first one is building up each other. So I've highlighted two verses. So let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet each other, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day drawing near. And then the second one, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. It can be really easy for us to get stuck in a rut and continue on through our days, just, here I am, this is the level that I'm at, and continuing on there. But sometimes we just need someone with an encouraging word. Sometimes we just need a cheerleader to reach our potential. Sometimes sitting inside us is a thought, a feeling, I could. I wonder what would happen if, and we just don't have the confidence to say it out loud. But when our family, our people come round about us, we can reach our potential. So a long time ago now, but when I was setting off to uni, I had that, I don't think I can do this. And the first day, my dad's driving me in the car, and I'm thinking, I've made a mistake, this is terrible. But he built me up that whole journey there and set me out for, this is going to be brilliant, this is the start of your next chapter. We can do that for each other. It also talks about to meet together. It's really easy to forget about people, for people to cover their struggles, cover their, their difficulties, to hide away in themselves when we don't meet together. But sometimes when you just see that person and they see your heart, it becomes so much easier to speak to them. The coming together part is actually really important. It's really easy in a text to say, yeah, I'm brilliant, I'm good, thanks very much for asking. But sometimes when you're having a hard day and someone says, how are you? It all just comes flooding out, and all of a sudden the solutions start to become clear. I also think that when we meet together, and I'll speak a wee bit more about this later, but when we meet together, we can do big things. As one person, we're limited in what we can do, but when we come together and everybody takes a little bit of the task, all of a sudden the unachievable is achievable. And I think that's really important for our family. Families come together in difficult times and they take what seems like an unachievable journey, and it becomes a journey that you strengthen each other together on. And that leads me on to our next one, supporting each other. So be devoted to one another in love. Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality, and then carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfil the law of Christ. We know that life's not always going to be easy. Sometimes things can get really difficult. Sometimes we feel like we are completely overwhelmed. But that's when we come together. That's when we work together. And sometimes it's just simple things. Sometimes you might be having you might have had a rotten week. Your week's not gone at all to plan. And you come in on a Sunday morning, there's a friendly face with a smile and a cup of tea. That little bit of hospitality suddenly makes us feel a little bit brighter, helps us to lift our head. And I want to share a little bit of an example, which I think everybody at some point will kind of be able to relate to, about sometimes getting the support that we need. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to ask for help. I find it really difficult sometimes to say, could someone help me with this? And sometimes I'll muddle along. And sometimes I'll be like at work and I've maybe got 5 or 6 things on my plate, and this is happening and that's happening. And see, instead of just saying to my colleague who's sitting eating their lunch, would you mind giving me a hand? I struggle on. So for me, sometimes this one is a challenge. But about a year and a half ago, I suddenly took quite unwell. And I mean, I went into work one day, skipped in, was fine, and by the time the day was finished, I was fairly unwell. And the long story short, I ended up having to go into hospital without planned, without packed, without having said to Craig, you're going to have to watch Jude, here's what he'll wear today, here's what he's going to have for his lunch, this is what he's going to play, this is what we're going to do. I just had to leave it all unplanned. And as a planner, I was at the point where going to the hospital, I don't know whether my anxiety about leaving everything behind was worse or the pain in my side. And I was becoming more and more frantic. We were in the middle of a wave of COVID, and I'm sitting in the hospital trying not to breathe because you just don't know who's round about you, and I could just feel the panic bubbling and bubbling and bubbling. And at that point, my panic was so blinding, my blinders were on, I wasn't thinking about anything other than, this Dr. Percy mean bit of a solution to get me back home, I have stuff to do. And I wasn't even thinking about the bigger picture, and I then got a text from my mum saying, don't worry about it, I've put you on the prayer chain. And suddenly I went, I don't need to deal with all this myself. My people, I might not be able to be with them just now, they might not be able to visit me where I am, but they've got my back. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes you just need someone who's got your back. And as soon as I'd got that message, I felt calm. And everything all kind of worked itself out and everything was fine. But in that very moment, I didn't know the people who had been contacted on the prayer chain. I don't know exactly who's on the prayer chain even to this day, but I knew that they were my people and that they had my back. And that's really important for us as a church family. That kind of leads me on to the next idea about people having your back. We keep each other on the right path. We're humans and we're flawed and we don't always get it right, even when we're trying really hard. And in fact, sometimes when we try and do things all in our own strength, that is exactly when we get things wrong. So Proverbs 27, verse 17. Iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another. And then instead of speaking the truth in love, we grow to respect the mature body. So, two kind of thoughts there. And for me, this is quite a difficult one because I'm a planner, I'm an organiser, here's my plan. And when someone comes and says, you're not getting it right here, that's a really difficult conversation to have. But when your family come to you in love and say, I'm worried about you, I care about you, I'm here for you, but this maybe isn't the right path you're on just now, this isn't the right journey, that's a much easier conversation because our family love us, we trust them, and it's not a judgment call. You know, we're not here to judge each other and say, well, I've saw that you've sinned 3 times this week. We come along beside each other and keep each other on the right path. And that can be really, really difficult. And that can be really challenging and isn't always easy, but it's an important part of being a family. You wouldn't watch your children, your brothers, your sisters, your gran, your aunt, your uncle about to go into danger. It's the same for us here. The next one is us growing together. Proverbs also says about starting children off in the way that they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it. I think sometimes as a church, it's really easy to focus in on the people your age, the people who you have things, earthly things in common with, but actually we need to look at everybody. And sometimes you hear people saying, oh, I'm just on creche today and it's just creche. But actually you are inputting into those people's life from the very smallest of our church. There's been a huge big study done post-COVID, and that study has shown that between the ages of 1 and 5, who a young person is going to become is already starting to be decided. Whether they're going to be an anxious person, a confident person, a loud person, all those things are already starting to be set. Now, we know that God can break all those barriers, but those things are starting to be set for young people. So actually, let's step alongside them and make sure that the next generation, the future of our church family, grow up to be wonderful people who can carry forward our church into incredible things. I look forward to one day sitting here and seeing some of our young people and seeing what incredible journeys God has taken them and our church on. We want to let our roots grow down into Him and our lives be built on Him. Your faith will grow strong in the truth that you were taught, and you will overflow with thankfulness. And that takes me back to our tree. So we want to let our roots grow down, and it's no mistake that God's at the root of this tree, because everything that we do as a family needs to be rooted in God. And when we come together, we teach each other, we learn from each other, we can grow stronger in God. And that's ultimately the purpose for our church family, to be growing in God. We then have a third one here. Truly I tell you that if 2 of you on earth agree about anything and they ask for it, it will be done. And when we gather in the Lord's name, He's with them. And that's a powerful thought for me. We can pray on our own and God hears us. But when we come together, there's something special in that. There's a strength in that. He comes together alongside us. And I want to share another story. I've asked for the kind of permission of the other people in the story, but I just want to give you an example of how we can come together and be stronger together. So a few years ago, I was in a girls' life group. All kind of young girls, we were all living our life. We had our life group, we met up, we chatted stuff through, we spoke about, have we seen this in the telly? Oh right, we better go on with our Bible study. We would do our study bit, we would then chat about other bits and bobs, and we went home, and we all felt like we gave each other a nice time and we gave each other support. And then we got an email from Dave. Marlene's had it put on her heart that she's to join your life group. So I goes that night and I says, girls, we're getting a new member. And we all kind of thought, how's this going to work? And we'll be completely honest. Our first thought was, she's going to judge your chat. Right, okay. And we kind of started to have this thought of, how's this going to work? And then we started to think, I mean, Marlene's at a whole other stage of life. Like, she's going to be thinking, they're having chat about the telly and they don't spend enough. And we were starting to get ourselves worried and thinking about judgment. That is not what family's about. And then as the more we started to chat about it, we thought about the other side. What an incredible step out of faith when there's a group of young girls who've already been established in meeting. God's put it on your heart to go and walk alongside them. What a huge step that is to say, do you know what, God, I'm going to do that. And for us, sometimes that's what we need to do. It doesn't matter what age we are, who we are, what stage we're at. We all have God at the root of our core. And we need to come alongside each other when God calls us out to do that. And anyway, as part of that life group, what we agreed was we'd just see how it worked out. So the first week came and Marlene said, I've got my own house I'll host. And we thought, that's actually quite good because we're then not putting our parents and things out. This might work out all right. So we went along and what a blessing our life group turned out to be. We suddenly had another dynamic to our life group. We suddenly had words of wisdom that we'd never had before. We suddenly had another viewpoint to our questions that challenged us and encouraged us and allowed us all to grow together in a way that we couldn't even have imagined. And that was because one person in our church family stepped out in faith for us. And it got even better than that because it then turned out as the weeks went on, not only did we get this incredible wisdom that Marlene brought in this extra dynamic as we left of an evening, and they always had a little word of wisdom that just carried us through our week. So our life group suddenly took this whole new dynamic where we were growing together. So that's my challenge to you. If God calls you out in something, if God puts a name on your heart, if God says you should walk alongside that person for a wee while, even if on the face of it it seems difficult, you don't know what kind of response you're going to get, if you're following where God's going to put you, it's going to have been a huge blessing. Now, all of that all sounds quite positive and all of that's really good, but the reality is sometimes in families we have our issues. My sister and I are very close, but there will sometimes be times where we butt heads. We're both fairly strong, independent people, and sometimes we have different opinions. But you never give up in your family. Even when you have a difference of opinion, you don't just walk away. You know, if you're in a job and you're always butting heads with someone, you find a new job. If the place you go for coffee, you start to have a disagreement with the person that serves you the coffee, you don't like the way they do it anymore, you just find somewhere new to go. That's not how it works with family. We bear with each other, give each other, forgiveness. If one has a complaint against another, if we've got a grievance, if we've got an issue, we don't just walk away from it, we work through it together. And we will be stronger for that working through it together. And sometimes in life we need to let things go, things that hold us back and stop us from reaching our potential, whether that be with our church family or not. But it's important that we let those things go and we set ourselves free of them for what our family needs us to be. So, our church needs to be based around God. God needs to be at the centre of it. If we are just going to be good people who are kind to each other and take care of each other and make each other's coffee, we could get that somewhere else. But it's not going to be the true family God is our Father, us as his children, working together for greatness. Our church family, I'm afraid, might sometimes let us down. They might not get it right. And it's how we pick back up from that. It needs to be a shared relationship where everybody's getting things. It can't be a take situation where you come in on a Sunday and you get the bits you need by everybody. It needs to be a bigger picture of everybody working together, everybody being their part of their jigsaw, everybody doing their own little bit. But the difference between us and any other community, any other association, is that we are rooted in God. And that's what brings us here on a Sunday as a family. So, God has called us to be a family, this very family here today. Whether you're watching online, whether you're here with us, God has called you to be part of this family. You are part of our KC story. You're part of the KC family tree. For this tree to keep growing and be at its best, we all need to be here and we all need to play our part in the family. So who has God called you to be in our family? I want you to have a wee think about that this week. Now, I'm not saying that I'm expecting you to run out and sign up for everything and you need to do things that's not your talents or not your bit. You just need to do your part. And your part for this season might be that you are finding things really tough, that you are in a really hard place. And your part in this family just now might be to be covered with love, to be covered with support, and that's okay. This is a safe space. It might be that you are a prayer warrior and that you go home and you pray for your whole church family and they never even know it, but know that you're having an impact and you're improving their life and you're enriching their life and you're giving into your family. Your role might be that God has just given you a beautiful insight into you can look at someone and without them even saying a word, you can see their heart. Your role in this family is to journey alongside those people. It might be that you are a talented musician, that you make the best cup of tea that there's ever been, that you have the brightest, warmest embrace, and you're the person that welcomes people in the morning. All our jobs in this church matter, and without all of us, whether you are a young person who goes downstairs and is currently having lots of fun, whether you are in a season where you have done lots for the church and you're now just taking some rest, whether you're in a season where you run in on a Sunday and life's so busy and chaotic and you come in and you sit and you give the hour and a half that you can, whichever bit you're given, you're part of our KC family tree. God wants you to be here. He's rooted you here. He has put you here. If you're sitting thinking, I don't know, do I have a part? What is my role? Is your role changing? Are you not sure? Go and sit at the feet of Jesus this week and think about a wee bit about what is your role, where is it? If you want to talk to somebody about that, please do not leave this morning without speaking about it. If you are sitting here deliberating, I think this is meant to be my family, but I've never actually asked for the adoption papers to be signed, come to the prayer place at the end, have that discussion with someone. And I just want to finish off by saying this is a safe place, a place to rest, a place where you can grow, a place to be challenged, and a place to find comfort. We're more than just a community. We are a family, and God is our common thread at the very heart of that. I believe that Jesus referred to us as a family as he wanted us to have everything that a family gives us. He wants us to be more than just people who come and sit in the same place on a Sunday. When you go to a family event and you've not seen people for a while, you embrace them, you hug them, you're so happy to see them. That's exactly the same for us here. Know that we are so happy when you walk in the door. We are so happy to see you. God wants to build us up together. He wants us to comfort each other, love each other, and do life together. So no matter where you are on the journey today, whether you're walking a rocky path, whether you're in a smooth bit of the journey, whether you're feeling a wee bit lost out on a limb, know that you have a place here as part of God's family. And if you at any point want to chat about that, the team would be absolutely happy to do that. And I'm just going to invite the band back up to finish off. Thank you.